Tourism and Disaster by Christopher Cheng. I like these pictures because I feel like the contrast with tourists vacationing by the beach and what would happen if a disaster hit the beaches. Tourism. Tourism is a travel for recreation, leisure, religious, family, or business purposes, usually for a limited duration. Tourism is a huge part of states and cities' economy, for example. But let's just say before spring break, a storm surge came or a cold front came to Key West. I would most likely call my friends up and cancel our trip and choose a different destination for spring break, and I would assume many others would too. This would affect the economy in Key West for this upcoming week. Also, what would happen is the disaster. A disaster is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts, which exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. Avoidance. People avoid discussing disaster in their communities for many reasons. First, many local governments and business leaders believe calling attention to potential disasters may discourage investment or tourism. Second, problems arise that directly compete for attention and resources. I use this picture, Avoid Problems and You'll Never Be Overcame by Richard Bach, because FEMA strives to avoid avoidance because they attempt to recover a city quick enough where tourism would not be affected. Economic development. The ROP should provide guidance on the economic development of disaster or stricken areas. Redevelopment should have been planned during the process of envisioning community recovery strategy. In communities that are highly dependent on tourism, active promotion needed to assure the potential visitors that all facilities are back in operation. It is obvious that a disaster to a highly demanding tourist destination would take a huge toll to the economy. Not only will most of the economy be used to clean up the city, but less money will be coming in due to the clear damage to the city. When a disaster hits. If and when a disaster hits, any city tourism rates will drastically fall. In main tourist attractions like Miami for the beaches or New Orleans for Mardi Gras, tourism-oriented business suffer major initial losses. It takes them some time to return to their prior level of profitability because people are often afraid to visit the disaster area for a period of time. I feel like the best example of this is when the New Orleans Saints, the football team, had to give up their stadium and let the citizens of New Orleans sleep there, and they had to cancel their football season for a year due to this. Hurricane Andrew and tourism bounce back. Even though the devastation was catastrophic for Miami, bounced back fairly quickly, and tourists were seen active coming in numbers. The only signs of damage that visitors were seeing were palms strapped and some minor branches. The zoo remained closed for quite some time, but reservations in hotels and other tourist attractions were booked rather quickly after the disaster. And this is just a picture of Hurricane Andrew, and I think this picture exemplifies how big Hurricane Andrew just was, as it is right next to the state of Florida, and look how big it is. Hurricane Katrina and tourism. Even 5 years after Katrina, New Orleans saw that numbers of visitors still are seen drastically low. New Orleans has a $5 billion tourism industry, which slowly recovered in 2004 before the Category 3 hurricane struck New Orleans. New Orleans saw 10.1 million visitors stop visiting, and after the hurricane hit, only 3.7 million tourists visited. As a frequent tourist in New Orleans, I still see the effects of Katrina. I am actually going there this weekend as a tourist. Yeah, I like to travel a lot. And this is a picture of Hurricane Katrina about to hit New Orleans. Tourism and disaster. It is obvious that if any type of disaster hits the land, businesses, etc. are damaged. This causes people to not be able to go visit a city or country if it's that horrific. This drastically affects the economy, which in the end is a major issue in the cleanup because money is needed. This is Christopher Cheng. I enjoyed doing this presentation. Have a good day.